First off, let me just address what I know you're thinking. You're thinking, James, why do you look like a neglected potato? To which I'll answer, I look like a neglected potato because I haven't been sleeping very well, not at all, for about 2 weeks. Insomnia has been a big part of life post-traumatic brain injury. I just this morning I looked in the mirror, I thought, you look like a neglected potato. So I wrote down that I would mention that. Anyway, let's move on from the neglected potato. I actually am changing the name of this video later today of this channel, but I just rest assured I won't be changing it to the neglected potato because I look after myself very well, but unfortunately sleeping will turn you into what resembles Mr. Potato Head. I almost couldn't get the words out there. Anyway, this video is about an excellent podcast that is aimed at people who have had traumatic brain injuries and who suffer with post-concussion syndrome and have had acquired brain injury, all of that. And that podcast is called A Battle Within. That's what this video is going to be about, because I was just a guest on their podcast about 4 or 5 days ago. And it's with Drew and Terry Neiman, I think it's Neiman. I met them and they are excellent. And I want to spread the awareness mainly of their podcast in general, even if I wasn't a guest, but that helps. But first, I made a promise to a very good old friend of mine named Paul Andrew, who's an actor like me. I'm not an actor anymore, but I trained for 4 years and was a professional actor for about 6, so 10 years in total. Should I tell the story about him first, or I'll tell the story about him second? No, because I said I'd promote this online play, well, a number of plays. It's a production, really, because you can watch it via Zoom. And it's, if you go onto Facebook and type in let's start again. So go on Facebook and type in The Telltales and BSC present. So BSC is Bravo Sierra Charlie present. That's just the letters. It doesn't actually say those words. So the letters BSC present Stories of Colour. Now, it's a production which is all about and backing the Black Lives Matter ongoing worldwide campaign. I just want to give it a plug. I'm going to be watching it. So it's on Monday the 29th of June. So it's a week tomorrow. And I'll put a link below this video. I actually am going to put a link, 100%. You'll look below this video right now and go, but if you forgot again, I haven't. I promise you it will be down here, because I've set reminders that I can't forget, which is important. That means I won't forget, because I've put reminders and I've set a reminder. So below will be a link to the Facebook page and the Zoom link and the meeting ID and the password you need and all the other info is on there. And one thing I just thought was nice, it goes without saying, I think, but that it said when I read it the other week, was this production is aimed at all races. It's aimed at everyone. And I'm sure it would be a great production. Paul was in the same year as me at the top drama school. I trained at East 15 Acting School in England. He was on the community theatre course. I was on the acting and contemporary theatre course. Same year though. And he's been an actor and facilitator ever since leaving drama school, and he's always been involved in really, really worthy productions and shows. And he's like one of the calmest, most relaxed, most unflappable people I've ever met. I haven't seen him for years, but we were good friends at drama school and for years after. It's just with the acting community, you have people that you love and you become good friends with, but because the nature of being an actor, you'll go many years without seeing them because, well, a big part of it is that actors, if they're doing well, that just means they can afford to pay the rent and feed themselves, not necessarily that they can go and visit their friends hardly ever, unless they both live in the same city, London, for example. And I did see him up until, from time to time, up until I left London for the first time anyway. So yeah, also, so I'll put the link below, and I say give it a go. I'm going to be watching it. And they just really appreciate the support. So it's the bedtime, the company who you'll be supporting, the Bedtime Stories Collective, which Paul is a member. And also, if you check out Paul's Instagram, at Paul Andrew 87, the number 8 and 7, at Paul Andrew 87, so all one word. And there's a link below his profile picture on there too. And I was going to tell a really quick story about just my best memory of him, and I've got lots, but so me and my friends, some of my friends from his course after drama school, not long after, moved in to a house in South Woodford, which is London, but it's just Greater London, so it's just in Essex, I think. Maybe South Woodford's not actually. Actually, South Woodford is just London, actually. Anyway, and it was a new house, and it was a Halloween house party, and I was going to walk to the tube station. I think I walked to the tube station on my own. It's about a 5-minute walk. Anyway, and it was nighttime, and I was dressed up, Halloween, fancy dress, of course, and I was dressed up as Pete Venkman from the Ghostbusters. I don't know what that was, but Bill Murray, and it's one of my role models growing up. Probably said a lot about me. Anyway, let's move on from that. I got to South Woodford Station, and he turned up. And Paul is a very handsome, very strapping, very tall black man, and he strode off out of the tube station dressed in as Superman, and it's a good costume. And as I said earlier, he's a very sort of laid back, calm guy, and it was like a celebrity turned up because he waved at me and he walked over to me, but then people started forming a queue to take photos of him as Superman, people that didn't know him. And I think it was, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it was about 10 minutes. And he was just very, very friendly and just chilled out and happy to take photos with mainly women, I'll admit, but it wasn't just. Actually, if you go to my Instagram page, which is at James _, so that line at the bottom, at James _Inkson Stevens, so INKSONSTEVENS. You'll see a photo of me and him back at the house in costume, and I just remember thinking, who are you going to call? Not the Ghostbusters, obviously. They want Superman tonight. But no, it was brilliant. He's just such a laid-back guy. Anyway, okay, on to the point now. Okay, cool. So onto the traumatic brain injury stuff. This is something that Terry and Drew Neiman brought my attention to. We had a podcast. I was a guest on their podcast the other day, and is Amelia Clark from Game of Thrones. She had a traumatic brain injury, and she's doing great stuff to spread awareness. But everyone else in the community, because Facebook's quite a big thing, and algorithms mean that it's actually quite hard for people from different countries to communicate or to see each other's posts. Because I wasn't even aware of Drew and Terry's podcast, A Battle Within, until Drew got in touch with me and asked me to be a guest. And then I listened to 4 podcasts, and after 10 minutes into the first podcast, I was hooked. It's great. It's, you can, I should have said before actually, you can listen on Spotify, you can listen on almost iTunes, on Google Podcasts, any medium, and it's free. And you can just listen to it, and you can have it on the background on your laptop or your phone, and it still plays, in your headphones, and it's just brilliant because they interview loads of different people, a lot with their own different stories, who've all experienced traumatic brain injury and have got a lot of experience with living through post-concussion syndrome. And I should have said as well, Terry is the one, they're a married couple, and Terry is the one who had a traumatic brain injury, and Drew is the one who kind of set up the podcast, but they co-host together, and I was the guest that day. They've had a number of really great guests, and I was very honoured to be asked, to be honest. And I think, I just want to spread. Yeah, so the point was, they made it clear to me, because I was like, how have I not come across your podcast? And Drew is very proactive, and he wants to be supportive to the traumatic brain injury community. And he found me via Google, even though they're both a member of at least a couple of the same traumatic brain injury private groups on Facebook. They hadn't found me that way either, and it's difficult because the traumatic brain injury and post-concussion syndrome community is a worldwide community, and there are, I'd say, tens of thousands. There might only be about 20,000 on the private Facebook groups, but I mean there'll be millions upon more millions than you probably would guess. So it's a brilliant podcast. I would never promote anything that I didn't like. In the past, I've promoted a lot of product supplements and things, but I haven't been paid 1 cent. I haven't been paid 1 penny to promote them. It's because I had used them for a third of a year before I recommended them. But of course, you should always, with supplements, always get in touch with a medical professional or a doctor first. But I'm promoting A Battle Within because it's an excellent podcast. It's well edited. You can just listen to it in the background. You can still do things while you're listening to it, and they're very. I was really refreshed just because they're very like me in the sense that they are very real, and it's candid. I mean, my memory is not great since post-traumatic brain injury, but I tried to remind myself. I kept reminding myself, right, as soon as I link via Zoom and chat to Drew, they live in Lancaster, which is not too far from Philadelphia, and I want to say, first of all, Drew, lovely to meet you. Am I allowed to swear? Because I swear like a trooper. And I forgot. It wasn't until about an hour in, after I'd said the word arse twice, they said, no, it's fine. And I was like, fuck. But I didn't even swear. I just said arse a third time. So I should just put a warning before that podcast. Warning, Englishman says arse 3 times. Which, I didn't even say ass. I said arse. But, as we do. But, okay, so... yeah, so I wanted to promote them. Oh yeah, and one more thing just for now is that I will be changing the name of my YouTube channel. It's the name I had in mind before I even made one video, but I thought, once I make a podcast, I'll give it this name. But in the early days, I was just sharing these videos and just uploading them directly to the page of the only traumatic brain injury group I was a member of at the time. But then after a while, 10, 20 or 30 fellow traumatic brain injury and PCS sufferers sent me personal messages and said, could you share this on YouTube or something so that I can actually share it to other people, because I can't when it's just a directly uploaded video. So that's why I started doing it straight to YouTube. But Drew and Terry made me realise a lot of things. They're really enlightening, enlightened folks, and they said, so let's promote on the podcast. And let's promote your channel. What's it called? And I said, it's just called James Inkston Stevens, which is my acting surname, which is my mum's side of the family surname. Because in England you can only have one of each name. You can't have Daniel B. Craig. There can only be one Daniel Craig, for instance. And I thought I should really call it the name which I've always been planning on calling this when I turn it into a podcast. But I think when I start the podcast, it's just going to be an audio alternative to all these videos for those with traumatic brain injury and PCS who have problems watching visual things. But then I think I will have the occasional guest. But Drew and Terry on A Battle Within, they pretty much always have a guest. I mean, one of the first episodes is Drew interviewing Terry in 2 separate podcasts because she had a traumatic brain injury. That's what led to the birth of A Battle Within. Excellent podcast. I think anyone could enjoy it, and I think I would definitely encourage people who haven't had a traumatic brain injury but who their partner or someone in their family or a good friend of theirs has a traumatic brain injury and lives through post-concussion syndrome rather, because everyone who's in the life of someone who's had a traumatic brain injury, you are in that community. You don't have to have been the one who's had a traumatic brain injury, and Drew is a perfect example of that. And there's one episode where they interview their daughter to say, what's it like having a senior family member go through this, and how's this affected you? But even beyond that, I think it's just a really good podcast. I really do. And I think, oh yeah, I didn't say what the name, I guess you'll see, but the name of the video, the channel on YouTube and the podcast, once I set up a website, I might link it with my writing soon actually. It's going to be called Dead Man Talking, because when I was attacked from behind by a man at least 2 inches and 5.5 stone to 6 stone heavier than me, I died for 2 or 3 minutes. And when I came back from the dead, I returned to a body with traumatic brain injury that was fighting for its life. When I was in hospital, I mean, I carried on being a patient after the 5 days. It was meant to be at least 7 days in hospital, but I carried on being a patient. I came back for an hour every month for months. But anyway, when I was in a hospital originally, I was asleep for 18 out of 24 hours. And the head injury specialist nurse said that's because his brain and his body is doing emergency repairs so that he doesn't die, I guess, again. And I had the most vivid dreams I've ever had, even though I woke up in hospital and I didn't really remember who I was or what happened really. I knew that I died. I knew I'd come back. And it wasn't till I talked to my best friend who was the chief witness, who said that it was a nurse that came up to him whilst he was phoning the ambulance and shouting at the guy who attacked me probably and stuff like that, who said, your friend doesn't look like he's breathing. Can I go and check his pulse and then resuscitate him? And I'd been out for a couple of minutes, and he just said, I looked at your body and you were just limp. And then she went to feel my pulse, and like in movies when someone's underwater and they're about to drown, but eventually after about minutes they breach the surface, they suddenly go apparently that's what I did. And she just said, oh, his heart started back up again. And my head injury specialist Erica confirmed it. She said I wasn't there, but I don't doubt it. Then a private doctor said he said, and I quote, I'm sure that happened. It's relatively rare, but it does happen to men who are young enough and fit and healthy enough, because they're the ones who I guess it's normally to do with, I'm not sure though, to do assaults and stuff, but their heart often sometimes stops, and they're the ones who expect the heart to start back up again. But it strikes me as somewhat synchronous that if my heart didn't start back up again, that a nurse just turned up and noticed, a stranger, and was ready to start trying to resuscitate me. So yeah, dead man talking, because I was a dead man. I came back, and it's about all these videos are about how I view life after death, how I view living, and how I experience living after dying. Because I was a dead man and I never shut up. I'm so loquacious, as you can tell. I meant to do a 10-minute video, I've done double that. I always talk too much. The podcast with About Within was meant to be 45 minutes max. I think it was about an hour and a half, so about double. And Drew and Terry, both just so lovely, but Drew was like, I'm going to have to cut it quite a bit, is that okay? And I said, don't worry, because I'm so loquacious. And even when I messaged Drew, I've got like a short paragraph in my mind, and I write like about 15 paragraphs. So I'm not just loquacious with my mouth, I'm loquacious with my fingers. And everyone who knows me, who's had any private messages from me, they know that too. And it actually causes me quite a lot of pain. But I'm just so loquacious that I normally end a message if I start to have pains in my brain. Anyway, I think that's it. Yeah, so just one more thing. The Telltales and BSC present Stories of Colour. Put that in the search bar on Facebook and check out at PaulAndrew87 on Instagram. Check out and follow at the letter A _ bottom line battle _ bottom line within on Instagram. But also the link to Stories of Colour will be below this video, and the link to the website of the Battle Within, and you can choose any. So there's a Spotify link, there's any number, and you can it's audio, and there's 70 plus episodes on there. So I think that's all good, and this is a neglected potato saying much love and never give up and keep fighting, and see you later.